And we're live, back for a special Saturday edition of the Beef and Barnzy Show. And today, do we ever have a special guest for you? First off, I'm going to welcome in my esteemed co-host and the brains of the operation, Beef Stu.
Hi, Chris. How's it going? Back-to-back days for us. It's almost like it's a real job right now.
Well, and it seems like it sometimes. And the nicer that weather gets and the closer we get to bowling centers open, I think the more that may feel like it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I honestly didn't really have the itch to bowl until we had Coley Edison on. And she came in and brought the fire. And I think she got us wishing we were back on the lanes again. So yeah. I think this guest we've got coming up now is going to definitely bring some positivity to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, we should read off a few of his highlights and get him on here with no further ado. Probably the most important things first. He's a husband to his wife, Kimberly. He's a father to Hugo, Aria, and Sylvie. It turns out he's also not bad at bowling. A 24-time titleist. Only 13 of those are majors. Yes, he has more majors than regular titles. He's won on 5 continents. He's a 5-time player of the year. And, well, we don't have enough time to list them all off, so we'll just bring him on here. Here's the world's best player and number 1, bright and early in Australia, Jason Belmonte.
How you going, fellas? Good to be on your Beef and Barnzy show.
G'day, mate.
So, hey, first off, it's a Sunday edition here in Australia, okay? So I don't want to confuse any of the Australians watching. It's not Saturday. Today is Sunday. I just want to make sure everyone back here is aware of the day.
Okay, well, I think the first thing we should kick it off with is so we've been doing the sign, or Tina's been doing the sign, shall we say? And Jason reached out to me and he said that he was really excited to see what Tina was going to come up with. So I covered it up for the first time, so you didn't get a preview. Okay. So the advantage of wearing a double fat shirt is that it covers the entirety of the chalkboard pretty easily. So here we go.
I am excited about this one. Nervous, but excited. Belmoism. It's okay if you don't like me. Not everyone has good taste. Your wife is the best. I need to tell a story. I need to tell a story about Stewie and me and not liking me. This goes back. This goes back a long, long time. I remember the question was in Istanbul, in Turkey, and Kimberly was with me at the time. And Stu wasn't really very nice to me. And I couldn't understand why, because I was always polite to him. I always said hi. I was just normal. And he was always quite mean. And then Kimberly came, and I said, I'll introduce you to some of the people here in Turkey. And Stu happened to be, that was one of the first times I think you might have I think you've met her a few times, but it was the first time you kind of really got to hang out a little bit. So I had said, that's Stu. I don't know. Stu doesn't really like me. We don't really hang out that much. And she's like, oh, okay. So a couple of days go into the tournament, and Stu and Kimberly are just laughing. They're buying each other drinks. Everything's like greatest time ever. And one of the nights I said, that's really cool. Like you and Stu, what's going on? And she's like, oh, I really like you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the next day I walk up to Stu and go, hey, why are you so nice to my wife and you're so nasty to me? And Stu's quote was, well, everybody likes you, so that makes me hate you. And then I went, oh, okay, fair enough. And then as the years have gone by, we saw each other again. Well, we see each other all the time, but this story came back up, and Stu was really nice to me. And I said, Stu, do you remember you used to not like me at all? And he said, yeah, but that was when everyone likes you. Now, no one likes you. So that makes me want to love you.
The thing is it's based around the principle that the people that everybody like, 99% of the time, unless they're Jack Jurek, are basically full of shit.
Oh, wait, you claimed that I was full of shit back then.
You were. Now you're keeping it more. Now you're keeping it more. 100, as the kids would say. And I like it. I have a lot more fun with it. Like,
Yeah. You like it when I'm in the league and I'm bowling with you and I get a little bit tired and I get into that kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to start teasing people on the lanes.
Exactly.
That's when you love it.
That's my favorite Belmo. Like, we're not bowling for a major. The crowd aren't really that close. They can't really hear me. Let's go for it. Hey, AJ, it's been a while since you left the 2-pin, mate. Throws it through the back of the building. Things like that. That's kind of the Belmo I like.
That's just league banter. That's fun.
Exactly. It's more. I think the funniest story that we've ever had, though, bowling the PBA League, was with Norm Duke. And we were practicing before we went on, and we were in the other building. We're playing against Norm's team, and Jason really likes asking the greats of the game, like just theoretical questions. Like if somebody else was to bowl a shot for you to save your life, who would you get to bowl, and things like this. So we're talking to, he's talking to Norm, and he goes, who's the best spare shooter of all time? Is it you? Is it Walter? Mark Roth? And Duke like stops and stares at Jason, and he says, it's me, and it's not even close. So I was like, Walter Ray spared 500 single pins in a row. Like,
yeah.
And so whatever. So then Duke's saying, like he always does for the last 10 years, if I'm going to compete with you, I've got to retool my game, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, fast forward, we go over to the PBA League side, and Norm's bowling in the 2-hole for some god unknown reason. And he goes up and he 2-pins. And he flags it. And he doesn't even blame the approach. Misses it, whatever. So at the 5th frame, we've got the TV break. And I didn't know that Jason had spoken to him, and Jason didn't know that I'd said something to him. So my line to Norm was, wow, I never thought retooling included going and needing new spare shots. And Jason said to him, better than Walter Ray, hey? So anyway, they underbeaten us because Norm's team always beats us in the PBA League. And Norm is telling this story, and he goes, so first of all, I get Jason come past me, better than Walter Ray, hey? And then I get Stewie off the top rope. And Norm's like reliving this whole story. And that was the first time that either me or Jay realized that we both said something to Norm about missing the 2-pin.
I don't think he's missed a spare since. No, I'm pretty sure he might be right. He might be better than Walter. I guess, Barney, you probably saw Walter in his, more of his heyday. He didn't miss very many spares.
He had several seasons where he didn't miss a single pin.
Unbelievable. Like
the 1 year, because he keeps his own stats, it was like 786 for 786.
Listen, I tweet about if I go a full tournament without missing a single pin. I'm like, I'm pretty proud of myself. I went one tournament, I didn't miss a single spare. And then Walt was doing it for an entire season.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is like, you're obviously a pretty good spare shooter yourself. So it's not like it is quite the and it's not like you leave as many single pins as someone say like Frankie.
Right.
So like I say, it's a different world they live in. And I was just shocked that Norm didn't blame the approach. Like that had to be the one time ever.
And you know what? That Portland Bowl on that in that bay, the approaches are actually a little tricky. So it's even more ironic that he didn't blame the approaches on an approach that was actually pretty tricky. That's the best.
Yeah.
Norm blames the approaches at the South Point Stadium where they're literally perfect, like perfect. And then we're in this one where there's beer been spilled over the years at Portland Bowl, and he's like, the approaches are great here. It's like, okay, Norm.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to say congrats on the show. Literally, like, for real, I love social media stuff. And when you boys started, making the Beef and Barnzy show, like the very, very first one, I kind of felt like was, you guys were just kind of testing the waters to see if this was going to work and how it was. Had a few teething issues, and literally every single week that you guys do this, it gets better. You guys are a great combo. It's great for the sport of bowling. Just want to say well done.
Appreciate that, Jay.
Thank you.
what's your latest show? Because we've seen you being on Facebook and you've tried a little bit of Instagram. What's your next vision?
Yeah, so I kind of want to do a little bit of different content on each platform. So I'm moving the Belmo show, which actually, after our conversation here, I guess it's 11:30 a.m. my time, so nearly an hour and a half from now, I'm going to be live on my YouTube channel, and that's where I'm going to move the Belmo show. So if you want to catch that, it'll always be on YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel over there. Instagram, I'm going to do more of a like chat with fans. So they have a really cool feature where you can just kind of, people ask for an invitation into your stream and then you just kind of scroll through, randomly pick people. So I've been having kind of like a chat roulette type conversation on Instagram. And then I think with Facebook, I think there's probably going to be more content driven towards, I don't know, more education, more coaching. I feel like that, or Facebook anyway, and its platform is probably a little bit older. So there's a lot more people that are, I guess, want to learn more of the theory about bowling, where the other, in particular, Instagram, or when I'm also getting on TikTok, which I thought I never would, but here I am getting on TikTok. And I think that's more for just a bit of entertainment and more visual stuff. So, and then Twitter is usually where I troll people. So that's kind of the platforms and how I'm doing it. So you can follow me across all those and you'll get just a little something different on each platform. Save me, it saves you thinking, oh, he's just posting the same stuff on all 4 platforms. I'm trying to make it a little bit more geared, very individual.
I've just posted the link to your YouTube channel in our chat for anybody who's
thank you,
gonna go over for that. Yeah, we've been me and you've been chatting a little bit about TikTok the last couple of weeks.
I know. I thought I wasn't going to do it too. I said I wasn't, and then I kind of got, I don't know, it was like one of those real slow quicksand moments. I was kind of standing in it, and then I'm like, oh, I'll get out of this. I don't need to continue this TikTok stuff. And then before I knew it, I was into my waist. And then I'm like, well, now I can't move, so I might as well enjoy it. So I'm kind of going a little bit all in on TikTok as well.
Yeah, the 2 billion users is probably, not the worst people to try and get a hold of.
Yeah, and plus Kimberly wants to do some of those, like, which I'm not sure how I'm going to do them, like, and enjoy them, but she wants to do a lot of those, like, husband-wife type TikTok things. She finds them hilarious. So she's like, oh, we've got to do some of these. And I'm like, oh here we go. All right.
Does that include Belmo TV as well?
Well, Chris, you're jumping the gun, but yeah, there will be Belmo TV. It's not quite as TV network as you think, but I'm in the process of doing a lot of research on how I can allow fans. It's like social media is great. Okay, I love it. It's awesome, but it also means that we rely on their algorithms to have our content shown. And forget about followers. I don't care about I really don't care about how many people follow. I don't care about how many people watch my shows or my content. What I do hope for is that Facebook or Instagram or whatever isn't purposely making it harder for someone who wants to read or see that content to get it without actually having to pay for it. So that kind of really bums me out. And I'm like, you know what? I need to find a way where if you really want to know what's going on, if you really want to get a coaching tip from me, you don't have to hope that the algorithm puts my content in your feed. You can just go to like Belmo TVs, which is what I'm actually calling it. I have a demo on my phone that's called Belmo TV. So it's not really designed for the masses. It's really designed for if you're a hardcore, you want to know some cool stuff about me, you can download an app or go to a website and you can just get that stuff right there. And you don't have to worry about any algorithms. I'll give you all this information and you'll have access to it without hoping, am I going to scroll past a post from Jason today? So that's 2021 type stuff, but it's coming. Yeah, I'm constantly thinking how I can, do more.
Yeah, you do definitely put out more content than almost anybody else, that's for sure. Despite being the best bowler and having 3 kids, you still manage to find time to to put out more content than the rest of us that we all say that we don't have time to do. So.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it's like, oh, I haven't posted on this platform for a little while. I probably need to do that. Otherwise, my algorithm's going to, drop. And then it's like, it hurts your head. But at the same time, like I said, I'm not doing this because I'm hoping to get X amount of followers. I could have 10 followers and I would still want to share whatever it is that I'm sharing because I want people to see it. So hopefully whatever I am making is somewhat entertaining, somewhat educational, and somewhat funny. And then people can, they can enjoy it.
Just quickly on the algorithm, if you do want to ever be guaranteed to see everything, what you have to do is you have to click on it, follow it, and then you have to select to always see or follow first or whatever it is. So that's the way that you avoid not seeing the content.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you do that to like 500 different pages, even still, it's hard to get.
But who else are you going to follow, Jay? After the Beef and Barnzy show and Jason Belmonte, I mean, everything else is downhill.
I don't follow that many pages, but I follow you boys now. I'm always keen to see who are the boys talking to today.
So Greg Thompson, straight to the point. He said a group of friends have the GOAT talk all the time. Figured I'd just ask you directly. Are you the best bowler of all time?
I think, okay, how do I say this without like getting the barrage of comments in the chat room?
I think the way you can do it, just as a tip, is I'm not saying I'm saying it, but Norm Duke is saying it.
That was a pretty big compliment, and I never expected to hear like my idol claim that I was the best player that he'd ever seen. So that certainly does help my argument. But I actually think we need a new word. I don't think GOAT is the right word because I don't think you can ever really compare two people from two very, very different generations and different times, different everything. I think you should be able to be the greatest of an era or a generation. I think those kinds of, or greatest of a period of time. And then you can start to look at the stats and you can start to ask competitors who were in that time frame with them, and you can get a much more real sense of who was better. Was it Walter and Pete? Who was actually better? Well, let's ask the guys who bowled with them and look at the stats where they bowled a lot of the same tournaments together. But once you start going, am I better than Earl? Well, we never bowled on the same time. We never bowled with the same equipment. We never bowled together, ever. So I would like to think if I keep going the way that I'm going, I certainly would be a favorite for the best player of, say, this generation of player. But of all time, I'm not bold enough to say that, I would be better than Earl if I went back to his time. And I wouldn't be brave enough to say that he would be better than me coming into my time. It would be an unanswerable question.
So for the young kids, Jordan is better than LeBron, though.
Look, I think so. This goes back to me living here in Australia and not watching Jordan play. Like, I never watched him play. So I see highlights, and the scariest part about highlights is, you see all the most amazing highlights where you're like, oh my God, this guy never missed, and he made every shot, and he could do absolutely everything. But then, you look at some other highlights of, those days, and Jordan gets 16 points, and he was like 5 and 15 from the field, and you're like, well, that's not the Jordan that everyone's telling me about. But he was huge. So you have those moments. So I see LeBron, and I'm like, my goodness, the guy is massively huge, super athletic, can shoot from three, can get to the paint. He's great in defense. He's a great passer. He'll beat a lot of the stats. So I'm a LeBron fan, but not to say that Jordan's not. Of his time, he was the greatest of his time, and I think LeBron is the greatest of this time.
Well, we can all agree that they're both better than any 76er that's ever played. So.
Ever played? I don't know. Come on, Iverson was like the man. You can't go past Allen Iverson.
They're both a lot better than him.
If you're going to go there, the answer's Wilt, but like...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm only a 76ers fan until Ben Simmons leaves. Once Ben goes, I'm on Ben's back. That's where I'm going.
You're going to do the American thing. You're just going to support a player, not a team.
Well, when I'm traveling with William, he's a huge 76ers fan, and I'm like, well, we're watching basketball all the time, and he's watching every 76ers game. Oh, Ben Simmons is Australian. Oh, it makes sense. I'll have a common interest to support the same team. But I have no affiliation with the 76ers themselves. Like, I don't care about, Philadelphia in that way. I don't have any connection other than Ben. So if Ben leaves, well, what's my connection there other than, watching my toolmate, throw potato chips at the TV screen when Embiid fumbles the ball again? That's the only other reason I would watch those games with him, was to catch a couple of highlights from Bill. It would be the highlight reel from Bill watching the games.
It's funny you should bring Bill up. He got asked a question when he was on with Frankie the other night. Anybody who wants to go back and watch that, it was pretty entertaining. Bill with Frankie and Sloan on their happy hour, Francois Lavoie. But Sean Ryan asked, do you think who will end up with more, Bill titles or Ben Simmons made three-pointers?
That's an easy answer. Bill's titles for sure. Ben, you can't make any shots you don't actually take. So Bill's at least bowling tournaments. He's gonna keep winning them.
You got any questions up there, Christopher?
Well, speaking of bets, that you're making, what's your most embarrassing bet that you ever lost?
Oh, bet that I ever lost.
It's kind of a question from Anonymous, so I do know probably the answer.
Yeah, I think you guys know him too. His name's George down here in Australia. In all fairness, when it comes to bowling, when I've made some bets, I haven't really been the loser too many times. And George and I, we've always had a really friendly rivalry here in Australia, mainly because he's always, tweeting and posting that he's the greatest player that's ever lived in Australia. And I keep saying, well, pump the brakes just a little bit, like allow me to come into that conversation a little bit. He's like, no, you can take care of the rest of the world. I'm going to be the best here in Australia. So we did a bet where if he beat me at one tournament, I had to make a shirt, and on the back of the shirt was a big old picture of George's face. And then above it was, I'm George's #1 fan. So I have that picture somewhere too. It's on my computer in one of my files. It's in the, oh no, you found it. There you go. And it was pink and had a picture of him. And it was, that wasn't nice. And that tournament that I had to wear it at was actually in my own hometown Orange Open tournament. And it made it even worse that I'm bowling in a tournament and I have to wear that shirt. But he did lose the next couple of bets, and one of which was he had to bowl in a skirt. So that was a skirt I picked for him, I guess, and he was man enough to actually follow through.
You can't actually see it, but it had a gold zip up the front as well.
Yeah. George, I wanted to find a skirt that suited his personality, and having the zipper up the front for quick access if he ever needed to do anything. And I think it's kind of a slutty looking skirt. And George was a bit of a slut. So
that was another bet that he lost also.
Yeah, the spray tan. Yeah, we had to get spray tan, but we had to do it where we had to go as dark as we could. So he stayed in the solarium for a little longer than he should have because he lost the bet and came out looking like that. So I have to give the guy credit. When he makes a bet and he loses, he typically pays up, except for one time in Manila, the Philippines. He bet me that I couldn't run the pool table against him, and I ran the table, and he owed me he owed me a watch that he was wearing that day, and to this day, this wrist is still void of the watch that he owes me. So it's always a reminder. Every time I see him, I always ask him, "Where's my watch?" And he's like, "I'm just hanging on to it for safekeeping for you."
So, Johnny Petraglia is a big historian of the game, and one of his arguments for for Mark Roth, which is fairly reasonable for being one of the greatest bowlers of all time, was that he'd done all these incredible things, like he'd made 20 TV shows in 1 year or whatever. So that got me thinking that maybe if we, with you being in our generation, that maybe we should stick up for you somewhat in these statistics.
Okay.
So when I was looking through, I saw that 2016 looked like it was a little bit of a rough year for you, being as every other year you've got 2 titles, 4 titles, 3 titles, and you had 0. So I counted up, and in your rough year, you had 12 top 10s. So that worked out pretty well. And then 2012 was a year that I probably isn't one that you're going to put down in your, annals of history as one of your better ones, but you did go second, first, second in the majors. I don't know that that's been done many times, winning or losing in the final of the majors. And then the last stat that I came up with, that I was just looking it up when we went on, is in PBA history, there's been 11, if I don't count you, there's 10 seasons where somebody's won multiple majors. You have 5 yourself. So
yeah, I like the majors. I don't know. I just seem to bowl. I bowl really well. Listen, Stewie. I mean, when we first met, and you can be honest right now, because I will tell you that I probably was feeling a similar thing. But when we first met, there was no idea that this was going to be a kind of career. It wasn't like when you see, I don't know, like you see someone that's just bigger, stronger, and better than everyone else. You can just immediately say, oh, this guy, he's going to break all the records. I think I was very I wasn't really sure how it was going to go. Like, I was hoping for a little success. That was the hope.
I actually told Chris about this just a couple of hours ago. I said that I actually saw you and Oscar bowl for the first time on the same day, because I met you the day before the practice when we bowled the World Youth in Pattaya.
Yeah,
like 2002, I think.
Yeah,
and of course, in general, at these kind of World Championships, the teams that speak English tend to kind of hang out. So we're hanging out with the Australians and whatever. And Belmo's trying to describe to me, and I think it was Matt Giles at the time, one of the other English bowlers, how he bowls. And we're like, what the hell do you mean you bowl with 2 hands? And he goes, yeah, I throw it like a rugger. Now, that doesn't necessarily help out anybody who isn't in the rugby playing world, but basically he threw it 2-handed like an American like a ball that looked like an American football. So I'm like, me and Matt are like, we got to see this. And your team was on the earlier practice session, I think it was. So we get down to the bowling center. We've never seen anybody bowl 2-handed. Where's this guy from Australia? Sure enough, there you are. And we're like, oh yeah, he's right. He does throw it like he's throwing a rugger. And then I go, Matt. And he goes, what? I go, there's another one of them over there. And Oscar was bowling, right? And Matt didn't see Oscar throw the first shot. And Oscar left a spare. So then he threw the ball like the speed of light. And he goes, what are you on about? He was probably just laughing about how the Australian was bowling. I was like, yeah, it must have been. And then we turned up the next day and Oscar really is bowling 2-handed. But like, we'd never seen anybody do it. And then twice in like the space of like 10 minutes, we saw like 2 of you bowl. It was very bizarre.
I was really nervous about that trip because I had, for my entire career, I was kind of the alpha male in Australia when it came to like rev rates and messengers and just the overall power. Like, no one in Oz could throw it as hard as I could. So I would always walk around with my head held a little higher and my chest a little further out. And when we were heading over, there was an Australian that had traveled somewhere. I'm trying to remember who it was. But this Australian had come back and said, I saw another 2-handed player in Europe, and he throws it harder than you, he revs it harder than you, and he's better than you. And I was really, really nervous to like finally see Oscar. So there was a part of me that's like, my mates in particular, in my inner circle, like, dude, he's just pulling your chain. Like there's no one that's going to have a higher rev rate than you. Like, you bowl with 2 hands. I don't care if this other guy does too. Like, you've been doing it forever and you've almost mastered it. You're fine. So when I first saw Oscar bowl a ball down the lane, I'm like, He has more revs than I do. He throws it harder than I do. He hits what he's looking at more than I do. And he's an overall better player than him. So I actually have to thank Oscar quite a lot for the advances in my career, because once I knew I was no longer the alpha male in those categories, I decided, well, why don't I become an alpha male in other categories where, you know, the ability to play different lines and versatility and have more touch rather than just this whole power game. I just kind of said, I can't beat him. So why try to play his game? I'll try and do some other stuff. So in the end, I kind of really have to thank Oscar for being better than me, because he certainly pushed me to widen my horizons in the game of bowling and to be better at a whole bunch of different things that I wasn't at the time.
Definitely. So
well, speaking of rev rate, I want to take a quick second, and it is all of our friends Liz Johnson's birthday today, so I did want to.
LJ, happy birthday, LJ! I'm gonna text her right now while wherever you're doing. I'm texting her. Right now.
So, what do you? What are they saying there as far as travel for you? When might you be able to travel and play again? Not that I think we're. I mean, July is the earliest I've heard anything from the PBA side, but.
Sorry, just texting Liz. It's her birthday. She's way more important than you guys. Yeah, look, the when this all went down, right? When this all went down, it was well, I guess you kind of hope for the best, plan for the worst type scenario. So a lot of the experts were saying, listen, this is how life is going to be here in Australia for at least 6 to 9 months. International travel, 12 months minimum before there'll be anyone coming in and out. This is what they were saying at the very beginning of everything. So my parents closed their business down. The government had already pre-planned to, or as a warning to those businesses, look, you're not opening up for 6 months. Just get that into your heads. That's what's happening. And as Australia was locking down, doing social distancing, obviously we're an island, so no one can come in to our country very easily without being detected. So we weren't getting anyone new into our country. We did an incredible job at flattening the curve. And I think today we have across the entire country, maybe less than 10 cases, new cases a day. So that number, and because it's down so low, has allowed the government to act a little sooner, right? They're allowed to now open up some of the restrictions that were once closed. So, for example, yesterday, we were allowed to go see my parents, and I could go into my parents' home. I could go to my sister's home when we couldn't do that before. So it's been kind of a fast-forwarded project because of what we were able to do to flatten the curve here. So we say now, like, well, what does that mean? If everything is kind of sped up, where does that put the traveling side of stuff? I mean, are we still out for 12 months? Is it going to be shorter? And we don't really know the answer, but now a lot of the pundits are kind of expecting, yeah, well, we've done such a great job. As a reward, we're more than likely going to see a lot of those plans fast forwarded. So international travel may be sooner than we thought. July, though, I mean, that would be a really big ask of Australia to open everything up in just a couple of months. But logic would tell me that if they were to do that, you would have to apply to leave. You'd have to have a pretty good reason. And then I would also imagine you would have to have some kind of isolation period on either side of your travel, whether you leave. So I would have to spend 2 weeks probably in a hotel room in America before I could venture off into the population. And same when I came back to Australia, I'm pretty sure I would be home quarantined for a couple of weeks. So it makes it a lot harder when, if I want to go bowl the league and they allow me to, well, I've got to leave 2 weeks earlier. And then when I come home, I've got to spend 2 weeks locked in my house for self-isolation, all because I wanted to play a tournament that lasts a day and a half.
4 shots.
Exactly. Even worse, 4 shots. It might be worth it if I can trash talk Barnes along the way. It might be worth those 4 shots.
Might be. It might be. I mean, in theory, and we had a question from Anonymous that if they had the league without you and the LAX were to win, did I say that right, Stu? Do you feel like that would be a check mark against your career? That it seems like maybe the team events and things like that are harder to win than.
I tell you what it would do. It would immediately, it would probably really devalue me as a player on any team if they're like, hey, this team couldn't win with him. They get rid of him. They now get a new draft player from, ranked 68th in the points. Then they win. Yeah, we don't really need Belmo in these situations. I might go into a draft pool and never be picked. So
I think someone would take a flyer on you, mate.
I don't know. Dude, how many years has the league been going on for? Like 7? We've come second a few times, never won it. The common denominator at LAX all of those years is this guy.
Kane.
I
Right?
was trying to think if there was any other player of the year, really high-ranked player.
First year.
Huh?
Sorry, we're just saying about Andrew. He wasn't there the first year they didn't.
What were you saying, Chris?
I was wondering if there was any other really high-ranked player, maybe even player of the year that had not had any, didn't have a win in the league or a team event either. I was trying to think if there was anybody.
I can think of one.
I have no idea. I don't pay attention to other people's careers. I know my career pretty well, but I have no idea about anyone else.
He was saying that you and Sean have something in common with the team bowling aspect.
Maybe we should team up. That'll be all right. We both can't win without each other. He may be my long lost love in team bowling. He may be the one that I need
your muse.
To carry on through.
Although you might find 3, it might be more difficult for you to find 3 other guys who wanted to join you.
We'll take everyone on our own. It'll be the Belmo and Rash show. We'll put it on.
That's right.
Dale asked a question that I think's pretty good. I mean, I know you've covered it quite a bit on your social media, but for Beef and Barnzy fans, tell us a little bit about how difficult it was for you getting back and what you had to do after the World Championships when you went back to Australia.
Yeah, so the World Championship day was basically the last day that we were in Las Vegas, but word had already spread. That's a terrible choice of word, but word had already spread quite quickly through Vegas that Vegas was going to close down. So we were like, okay, well, we need to get out of here. And we still had about a week left of our holiday that we had planned. And we were going to fly to Chicago to see the Asbady family, who we're quite close with. So we all decided, right, well, the plan was we're going to hang out in Vegas for 2 or 3 days without any bowling, just to go and enjoy Vegas, and then fly to Chicago and then fly home. So we heard the news Vegas was closing down. So we're like, oh, well, let's get out of here like immediately. And pretty much every airline was giving away tickets to anywhere in the country. So we were able to get some really cheap flights to Chicago. And then when we were in Chicago, we were there for 2 days, and my mother had left a voicemail message for me overnight, and she was in hysterics and quite concerned because while we were sleeping, the Australian government had made an announcement that they were closing the borders up and that they were asking all Australian citizens anywhere in the world, if you want to come home, you got to do it now. So we woke up and I said to Kimberly, I'm like, hey, I guess we should probably look at getting home. So that became a challenge in itself because we were asleep while that notification went out. So I guess there are other parts of the world and other parts of the US and people all trying to get home. So the flights started to become really hectic, and finding as many seats on one plane as possible was really, really difficult. And we had 5 of us. So we found some flights. We flew out immediately from Chicago that day, came home, and then it was like out of a movie. You know, I've gone through the Sydney airport a million times, and it's quite a relaxed environment. I mean, you still have your security and you still have all those regular things, but it felt very different. And we were all given these forms that we had to sign as a declaration that we would have 14 days mandatory self-isolation at home. Massive fines, like $13,000 or $14,000 fines if found to be have broken those. Well, we signed a federal document. So that was all really, really difficult. And when we got home, it was hard. You know, I had been gone since January, So I hadn't seen my family, my grandparents, my parents, my cousins, my sister, my mates since January, and only until yesterday was the first time I was actually able to visit my mum and my dad. So it's been a hard trek for us all, but we're getting through it now, which is good. We actually had the police come knock on my door one day through isolation, and they called me on my phone. And as a parent, maybe you guys have done this, but when the kids have been a pain in the ass, like, hey, we're leaving in the car, can you put your seatbelt on? And there's just no movement to put the seatbelt on. You're like, listen, I gotta go. Put your bloody seatbelt on so we can get going. And there's no movement. Then sometimes I will pretend that the police have called me on the phone to warn me that my daughter, who is 4, isn't putting on her seatbelt. So that usually sparks a little bit of, the police, I better put it on. So my phone randomly rings while we're playing some Peppa Pig memory game. And it's Senior Constable, whatever her name was. And I'm like, oh, hi. She's like, hi, we'd like to come and visit you. Is that possible? We'd like to talk to you about your isolation at home. I'm like, yeah, okay, no problems. And then everyone's like, who was that? I'm like, it was the police. And they're like, Dad, who was it really? Because Orange is a small town. I mean, we aren't getting into too much trouble here in town where police are getting called. And I'm like, no, listen, I'm telling you the absolute truth. It was the police. So then we get the knock on the door, and these 2 police officers are at the door, and they're telling us that as a family, there are witnesses that we were in town at the shopping center, kind of roaming through the shopping center, and that if that were to be true, we would each individually, because we all had to sign the document, be liable for a $13,000 fine. So I'm like, listen, I can tell you right now that that's not us. There's another family that looks just like us, I guess, because it wasn't us. So then since that day, it makes it a lot easier now to convince, in particular, Sylvie, the police will come and get you if you don't put your seatbelt on, because, well, they know where we live now, sweetheart.
Oh, that's cruel.
Oh.
Really, she puts her seatbelt on every time now, and she's safe. So that's good.
There you go. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, maybe Greg Norman will let you borrow his jet if you promote his wine.
I don't know how big even Greg's jet. I don't know if he can get from Sydney to LA. That's a bigger plane than any jet.
That's a hard.
He did play a few tournaments in the US, I'm pretty sure. Greg Norman actually was famous for selling his jets to the other players.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Adam Scott, actually, one of the guys who came Cuppy was telling us that Adam Scott always has a really good deal. He always upgrades, and he always makes money because the plane that he has is always in very high demand.
Oh, so
he sells his plane and he actually gets more money than he paid for it. And that's how he's moved up. Like, I think he's done it like 2 or 3 times. He was saying that, like, he always comes out smelling the roses with these jets because the wait is so long to have one built that people are like,
I would imagine a few airlines are looking to sell some planes right about now. So you can probably find a few cheap ones on the market.
Kevin Winters, a winner of a Beef and Barnzy competition, so I'll bring him up. How many frequent flyer miles do you have, and are you saving them for a huge trip?
So that's a good. I have loyalty with a few different airlines around the world. So I tried for a really long time to fly exclusively with Qantas and the One World airline carriers to, generate a lot of the benefits there. And I think at last check, I had close to 3.5 million miles or points or whatever it is on Qantas. And that was the idea, was I'm just going to save every single one, like not use them personally. I've given out about 1 million points in my life as gifts to my cousins that were looking to travel around the world and the flights were really expensive. I would give them 400,000 points or something like that. So that was my gift to them for their 21st birthday or their 18th birthday. But I have, just over 3.5 million. And the idea was I was going to take the family on a ridiculous 5-star type worldwide holiday, because a lot of the points that I use, I can also use them with partner hotels and restaurants and, get the massive suites and stuff like that. And I'm sure even with 3.5 million points, I would have had to have paid for some stuff, but it would have been a heavily discounted trip if we do that. So that's still on the cards because we haven't done that yet, and I still have those points. But I'm racking up my United points at the moment. I'm enjoying flying with United.
Yeah, I had the credit card scam going for quite a while. I collected a lot of credit card points because I was booking for all of the European people who decided not to do anything. So it worked out quite well for me. I was collecting these points. It worked out real well till Tina realized that our joint bank account gave her access to that credit card. So now we don't have quite as many points as we once had.
She deserves to get whatever the hell she wants, that girl. She puts up with you on a daily basis. She can go and buy whatever she needs to survive.
So I have one semi-serious question for you before we finish. Well, before we finish this section anyway. What do you think it is that separates you from the rest of the field? Like, what if you were to say one specific thing that it is? Because it's not that like necessarily that you're more accurate or whatever. It's like, what do you think it is that meant that you went from being one of the best bowlers to the best bowler?
I'm going to try and answer this quickly because it's quite a detailed answer. When everywhere I ever went, I would always look for the best player, right? Whoever it was, there was always someone in the building that people knew was the best. And I would watch them I would watch them when they were sitting down in the settee. I would watch them when they weren't bowling. I would just see all of these people in each of the environments I would go to, like what makes them so great, and see if I could put 2 and 2 together or find some kind of commonality between them. And the thing that I probably found more than anything were there are 3 things. One, for the most part, they were patient. Now, they had moments where they weren't patient, but for the most part, over a long period of time, they weren't necessarily the guys that would come out and lead from game one. They would just bowl, and there would be a moment where they would gain some momentum, and then that's where I really saw them shine. So they were really patient on when to strike. I mean strike not in the literal sense of getting a strike, but when to strike and put the foot on the pedal and kind of use that momentum to better their position in the tournament. I think the other thing is they were really smart. They were really smart people. When you talk to them off the lanes, they weren't, and again, this isn't a standard rule across the board. There are some very great players that maybe aren't as smart as others, but for the most part, the best that I ever saw when I talked to them off the lanes, they were intelligent. They knew the game of bowling. They were really, really well rehearsed in their own game too. They knew their own game really well. So that was probably the second thing. And the third thing is I never see them give up, right? Like I never see any of the greatest players that I consider the greatest players to ever have given up. And I'm like, that's something that I can relate to. Whether I'm going to make the cut or not, I will get every single pin, every single time, no matter where I am on the leaderboard, every single game that I bowl. And if I do that, even when I can't make the cut, then there will be moments when I know it is possible to make the cut, and I've already drilled that message into me so I don't ever fall out of that. And I've made cuts when other people probably thought I wasn't going to make them, and then from there I've won tournaments. And I felt like that was probably the main reason, was mathematically I can still get there, so I'm going to get every pin. Oops, mathematically I can't get there. I don't care. I'm going to make a ball change. I'm going to move. I'm going to make my spare. I'm going to think about what the next move is going to be, whether or not it can mean I can win the tournament. And it just so happens that it's certainly that mentality has certainly helped me, on a standard day-to-day tournament environment. But Chris was one of those guys. And I don't mean to, talk about you, Chris, with you listening in, but I would watch you and the way you studied the game and how, you would bowl a bad game. You would have a moment perhaps, But when you would go to the next pair, there was this redefined attitude towards, right, how am I going to attack this pair? I never really saw you send it in where you just gave up and you decided to use the same ball the entire rest of the tournament. You never moved and you just kind of said, screw it, this one's over. I'd always watch you and, you'd be 10 under and I'd see you playing 5 and then you'd be 20 over and now you're locked in the left gutter. And I'm like, wow, that's a testament to a true champion. Is it doesn't really matter the score. You were always trying to get as many as you could. And I feel like a lot of the younger players today don't have that. I think a lot of the younger players, they come out of the blocks really strong, then they're a threat. But if they start 20, 30, 50 under, I almost can see it on their face. It's like, well, this week isn't going to be my week. I'll just wait till next week. And then they go through the motions. And it makes my job a lot easier because a lot of these kids are really talented. And I know that if they actually, had a little bit more heart, they might be able to make a run and potentially win tournaments. So it certainly makes my job easier. But that's probably – I know I said I wasn't going to speak very long, but I don't know. It was a detailed answer. Yeah,
we appreciate it. That's kind of what we were looking for. So we've actually we've got our 10 frames section coming up, but we've decided to do it slightly differently this week, or this show, in fact. So we're
yeah. I had another question, but you kind of answered it right there. So one thing right before we do that, are there any more Belmo balls coming out?
I'm not at luxury to say right now if there is or if there isn't. But if there were, it will come out later in the year. But I cannot say for certain that there's one coming.
I gotcha. Well, with that, Stu, go ahead. You can lead us into our.
So we decided that to spice up the 10 frames, we'd bring in somebody who knew you a little bit better than we might.
All right.
So Bill's here to do the 10 frames with Belmo, and me and Barnes are going to put ourselves in the background. And Bill, have at it. Your best shot here, mate.
Yeah, so they just told me about this like 10 minutes ago, so I really haven't had a whole lot of time to prepare.
Okay.
So
before you start, what's the match going on in the background there? Who's bowling?
Oh, I don't know. The kids come down here a lot.
I can see you're watching yourself bowl on TV. That's awesome.
The kids come down here a lot, and they just rearrange things, and I don't know. I don't know. Haven't been down here in a while.
All right, fire away.
So yeah, some of these questions are from Chris. Some of them are from anonymous people.
Sure.
On the internet.
Yeah, fire away the anonymous.
We'll start. I'm going to start with a softball and end with a softball, and then everything in between will be a little bit. We'll get a little bit harder as we go. So the first question is, people tend to kiss your butt when you're, on the tour and life in general. So who's most likely to ghost you?
Ooh, Tony Lacaz.
Yeah, this is good. I think he's most likely to ghost us.
I've texted him now a few times, and it's been a while since I've got a reply. So he is the definition of ghosting, and he's one of my best mates. So go figure.
That's a good one. Okay, so you've been compared to Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan in terms of your accomplishments and worth in the sport. Which one of those guys do you share the most personality traits with, and why?
More so Jordan. More so. Yeah, I feel like Tiger and I don't really know much about Tiger, but what I do know about, he gets golf clubs, thrown through his windscreens and all sorts of stuff. But Jordan just was probably more of an aggressive competitor. Like he wanted to be the best, and that's kind of how I relate. I want to be the best, so I say Jordan.
And that's actually a perfect answer because he once famously punched one of his teammates in practice, and you slapped me one time. So I guess that does make.
Yeah, but I did that on a bet, and he did that because I'm sure the teammate screwed up a training drill. So
yeah, probably right. All right, question 3. What's one shot in your career that you would like to have back?
Oh. Oh, that's a good question. There's a couple. I mean, there's a few that I wish I could have back.
Will you hang on for a minute? Mike.
No, I'd already won that tournament a couple of times. So I didn't need to take that one back. I would probably say it would. I mean, as an individual, and this is going to surprise you because you give me shit about this all the time, but there were a few doubles matches shots that I would want back. I mean, I felt pretty bad on some of those shows that we played where I just wasn't performing really well at all. And as an individual, I'll win as many as I possibly can, and I'll be happy with whatever happens. But I really feel bad when I let you or a team down. So there are a couple of shots that, in that retrospect, I mean, even in the PBA League, there were a couple of shots there where I'm like,
there was like a couple in the space of like 2 minutes.
Yeah, there were some pretty bad ones. I mean in situations you don't get any time to recover them back, so it's just
listen, the questions I have are the same, whether or not you give me that answer or not. So, okay. I know you've done this in the past, but the meanest thing that anyone's ever said to you on social media. It's been a few years since I think you did that online, so I'm sure there's gotten some good ones since then.
Oh yeah, there was a I saved it. I did like some mean tweets, Belmo edition a few years ago. But one of them was pretty rough. It was and I'd have to paraphrase here, and I don't think you have the ability to press the bleep button while I'm talking live. So I'll do my best here, but it was basically he was wishing end of days on my life, and that he compared me to a little person, a midget, and he just absolutely hoped that a bus was going to run over me as I walked out my front door the next day. It was pretty rough to read when you're like, I don't even know who this guy is, but he clearly hates me that much to write. It was like it was long. It wasn't like, hey, I hope a bus hits you. No. He went into full detail about how he wanted it to happen. So
sure it wasn't a rash burner account?
No, I mean, if it was, he wouldn't be. I don't think he hates me to the point he wishes me to be dead. He may just not like me to bowl very well, but I don't think he wants me dead. Maybe I'm wrong, but this fan wants me dead. So that was a bit scary.
Just imagine what that would be like if we could gamble, like if Vegas had odds on us and you were throwing doubles matches like that.
And you went.
I would be in a lot more trouble.
Yeah.
The truth.
All right, what else I got here? If you could be one person for one day, who would it be and why?
I already told you, Bill, what the answer to that was.
Elon Musk is going off the rails, so I wouldn't pick him. I'd steer clear.
No, remember we were bowling doubles together and I sent something to you?
Yeah, say it.
So we were bowling doubles in Columbus, and as you guys know, I have quite a lot of success at Wayne Webb's bowl, and this was just not that one. Yeah. Well, forget about the final games. I'm talking about all the other games, right? So this was when Bill and I we were lapping the field. Like as a doubles pairing, we both bowled individually really well. So we could have a bit of fun. And I was doing my, lofting over the left gutter and turning around and not watching the ball and getting strikes. And I did one and I turned around, and before the ball hit the pins, I said to Bill, one day, I wish I could wake up as you just so I could watch me bowl. And I have to admit, it came out really perfectly, like the sarcasm. Everything came out perfectly, and it made Bill laugh quite a lot. And we were bowling.
You were standing at the edge of the approach too. You didn't even get off the lane.
We were bowling with EJ and Marshall, and Marshall and EJ both heard it, and they looked at me and they went, "Wow, that may be one of the greatest things I'd ever heard you say before." And I'm like, I couldn't hold it in. I had to laugh.
And then, so that's I believe that's something that Kanye West has said before, and you wear his sneakers all the time. So everything's really coming together here.
I didn't know Kanye said something that arrogant.
Yeah, I believe it was something like one of my greatest regrets is I'll never get to see me perform live or something like that. So it works out. We're checking all the boxes here.
All right, far away. You got any more?
Yeah, easy one here. What's your favorite TV show of all time?
TV. Oh, TV show.
Well, yeah, premium channel, anything.
I'm told if I watch The Wire, it will be my favorite TV show, but I haven't got that far just yet. I'd probably go and say something like, I'll tell you what has become one of my favorites. It's the, oh my God, now I'm going to draw a blank on it. It is the one with Jason Bateman in it, Ozark.
Ozark.
Yeah. Ozark has certainly become one of my favorite. I mean, it is a really, really good show. So that one, and then something on the Disney Channel, I'm sure I love because it's on all the time.
You went with Disney Channel.
Well, it's on here all the time. So there's something on there that I now can't stop watching. They were actually, my kids were into Teen Titans Go. I don't know if you ever watched that cartoon. It's actually quite funny for adults too. So if you ever get a chance, it's about mythical characters that can transform and whatnot, but it's actually quite funny. So anyway, Ozark is my adult pick. All right.
Because I've seen Trolls 67 times in the last 5 days, but it's not my favorite movie.
This show is funny. You'll like it. Teen Titans Go. All
right, Will. So you've accomplished everything in bowling. What's one thing that you want to do before you retire?
I'm a couple of wins away. Well, I'm 1 win away from the Super Slam twice over. And that wasn't something that was really on my radar until I just won the US Open. And then I realized if I win that again, I'll win the Super Slam twice. And then if I win the US Open a second time or a third time, total third time, and I think it's the Players' Championship one more time, I'll have the Super Slam 3 times over. So I got to try to focus on those ones. That'd be pretty cool to be the only player to win it twice and then to be the only player to win it 3 times. I feel like that would be an accomplishment that may take a really long time to beat.
You think?
Yeah, I do think.
Yeah,
I think maybe by then you'll be like, running the tour and you'll just eliminate one of the majors so that it's not possible.
Yeah, I'll reduce the
PBA Players Championship. That's just a regular title now. Sorry, guys.
And I'll retroactivate anyone that previously won that one. So it'll be.
All right, the last 3 questions I have, they're all from anonymous people on the internet. So I'm reading them just as they've typed them.
Okay.
You've never won the Lucy Bonneau doubles tournament. Bill has won it 3 times. Do you care to comment?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't bowl good enough, and Bill did. I mean, listen, I respect the Lucy doubles tournament. I think it's a wonderful tournament, but it won't be the tournament that keeps me up late at night that I haven't won. And I know Bill in that trophy cabinet behind his. It's I don't want to disrespect Bill because he really loves that tournament. His trophies are front and center. So I'm proud that Bill can win something that I haven't. And at some point, I'm sure I'll win it. So enjoy that while you can.
I guess
a lot of highs in there for a doubles tournament, isn't it? I win it. That's what he said. That's jeez.
Yeah, I will win it. Yeah. I don't know who I'll be bowling with, but because right now Deandra's bowling with Marshall, so I don't have a partner. So I can't actually say we, because I don't know who I'm going to bowl with. Maybe, hey, what's Linda doing these days? Linda still bowling much?
# all out.
Tell Linda if she wants an upgrade in the doubles partner, just let me know, okay?
I'll pass it along.
All right, question number 9. You're almost home.
Okay.
Have you ever been wrong?
Once. Yeah, once. And then I found out I was wrong that I was wrong. So that made me right. So I don't know. I guess.
What are you wrong about?
Oh, I don't know. I'm wrong often. It's just I typically argue my wrongness until the other person gives up arguing with me and just accepts the fact that I'm right, even if I am wrong. So it's a personality trait that I'm actually getting better at not being. Kimberly in particular hates it. And I've come to learn in business that it is a really bad personality trait. If you think you're right all the time, you're probably going to fail. So it is something that I am I'm much better at now than I was when we first started traveling around together. I must have been a nightmare to travel with back then.
Yeah, just back then.
Yeah, back then.
All right, last one. Just leave you on an easy note here.
Okay.
Tomorrow, if you woke up and Donald Trump was your prime minister, how would you feel?
It's the exact same Donald Trump? Like the exact version?
He's on your TV tomorrow. What do you do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think
this is what's called a pickle. This is what I did here.
Yeah, this is difficult because I don't necessarily believe in a lot of the same philosophies that he has, in life. But this is the hard part about politics and why I'm kind of over it is you can't be purple anymore. You have to be red or you have to be blue. You can't like one part of one side of the aisle and enjoy another part of the other side. So if he came over here, I feel like that's how it would be. It would be you would have to draw a line. You're either with him or against him. And if I had to be with him or against him, I think I differ on way more policies than agree with him on. So I would have to be on the other side of the aisle. But I don't know why we can't all just get along and work together to improve, the country as a whole. I don't know why we've got to, it's more important to win the election than it is for the country to grow. So hopefully that shit changes.
Well done. I tried to get you.
We appreciate it, Bill.
You filibustered enough there. You got through it. Good job.
Gerrymandering around the question. Just drawing my own lines.
That's it. Good job.
It seems like he's answered a few uncomfortable questions over the years. He seemed to be prepared.
I think with all the answers he gave, I think he could be like the next Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith. I think he's ready.
Oh, look, I don't want to talk bad about Skip. I think, Skip is a very intelligent, wonderful.
Good.
I think his views, whilst I disagree with a lot of them, I think they have a lot of validity. And I can see why a lot of people enjoy listening to Skip talk. I'm just not necessarily a fan.
Yeah. See, upset Chris is getting about Skip Bayless because I don't think he understands the bit yet. He's still getting angry at him. He doesn't get the bit.
Well, I have to say, Bill, I enjoyed you with the boys on the on Frankie's show the other day. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, they had anonymous questions. I don't know where they came from, but there was also.
Get ready, Lucy doubles one day. All right, you.
I don't have one of those trophies either.
Okay, well that's sad because your husband's right there.
Love you.
She figured if Shannon can carry Bill, you should be able to carry her.
Love you, Chris.
I actually figured that Shannon might feel sorry for you, Belmo, 1 year. Because, I mean, she did prove that she literally could win. It didn't matter who she was born with because the 1 year she didn't bowl with Bill, she still won.
This is true. Yeah, Bill, you aren't as valuable in that pairing as Shannon. Actually, come to think of it.
What?
You gotta go. Yeah, good call. Yeah, see you later.
Yeah. a lot of crying upstairs. I don't know what's going on.
Your match on TV is about to replay again on the loop that you've got it running, so I'll let you get back to watching it again.
The Wi-Fi is cutting out too, I think. Lots of stuff going on here.
Hey, I'll talk to you soon. I'll text you.
All right. See you guys.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Billy, for coming on.
You got it.
All right, Jay, we'd better wrap up here so you can get something to drink or whatever before you got Timmy going.
If anyone's still watching this, it's been an hour and 9 minutes or so. You're going to see I'm wearing the same clothes. I thought about changing, and now we've gone a little longer than I was expecting. So I've got to set up for my Belmo show on YouTube with Timmy Mac. So you're going to see me wearing the exact same clothes, sitting in the exact same spot, talking about probably the exact same stuff with a different guest.
No, it won't be. Trust me. From experience, you say, "Hi, Tim," and then about 25 minutes later, you go, "That was good. Do you have another one?" And then he goes again.
Yeah, the show's over. Perfect. Yeah, I love Timmy. I can't wait to talk with him. I really.
We're all in the Tim Mac fan club. It was just like that was
interviews, but
Hey,
Mac, he's been on 36 countries. He's won all this around the world. The Weber Cup, And like an hour and 4 minutes later, I went, Tim, it's been great having you on.
I'll tell you something right now. I'll tell him when I talk to him in 20 minutes. But to this day, Timmy Mac is the best bowler that I ever saw. He was the best bowler I ever saw, because when I saw him bowl at his absolute prime, I was bowling on that same stuff, and I was averaging 180. And Timmy was winning the tournaments, and he was able to do stuff. He's actually part of the reason why I think I developed a lot of the touch and the angles to be able to open up a lane so much. Like, I was always able to do it naturally just because I bowled two-handed, my rev rate was high. But to watch Timmy's ball shape and the way that he could dominate, it was pretty amazing. So, yeah, I mean, you're up there, Chris, as one of the best I've ever seen. But Timmy, in his day, he's my favorite to ever watch.
Fair enough.
Yeah, ask him about leaving his shoe at the foul line in Heathrow Bowl.
Oh no, dude, that's one of 1,000 stories. I don't even want to start talking about Timmy Mac stories right here. I want to save them for my show. There are some classic Timmy Macisms around the world that I've seen firsthand. I'm going to talk to him about them on my show in 19 minutes now. Can you guys let me go?
Yeah, all right. Tell him where to find you. Tell him where to find you in 20 minutes.
Do you even know your YouTube address?
Yeah, it's just Belmo 0300. So youtube.com/Belmo 0300.
There you go. So be sure to check that out. Thanks a lot, Jay. We'll hopefully we bowl the PBA League together.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be there, mate. So I would talk to our manager and start looking at that draft pick.
We might be going with straighter players now.
Maybe, yeah. Could be a good idea. Yeah. So.
All right, mate. Take care of yourself.
All right, cheers, boys.
Man.
See you later.
All right.
Well, that was Jason Belmonte. He definitely brought the energy, and we appreciate that. That was a great show. What did you think, Chris? Is he winning you over for your vote for greatest of all time?
He's in the conversation. It is such a hard thing, and there are a lot of good arguments about it. I mean, Earl won a ton of titles in a very short amount of time. Walter has such a long period of dominance. The Roth argument holds water. And I heard Flanagan bring up one, and it made some sense that Dick Weber only bowled in half his career on a PBA title. So maybe you could even make an argument there. But certainly he's the best of this generation right now. And if he were to get the Super Slam twice, and 3 times it's ludicrous to think about. The game's over. The
only thing I would say is I think that a lot of the titles get this negative connotation at the moment. You are quite a preponderant of doing this because the game's being less. But actually, for Jason, that makes it harder for him to win tournaments.
Well, actually, Jason doesn't have very many of those.
No, but what I'm saying is
for frame events, he doesn't bowl those short ones because.
But all I really meant was when all of those guys were winning so much, they were bowling 42 games or 50 games every week, and most times we bowl 50 games. Jason makes the show like almost 60% of the time. It feels like so. Right. It's actually fun that it's the other way around for him. It actually makes it harder for him to win the tournaments because. To assert his dominance, I guess, is the best way of putting it.
Yeah, it seems like the longer we play, obviously, the better he gets. And so certainly that would be the case. And, that's been fun. There's some things I'd never heard before. It was a great hour with the world's greatest player.
And so we're having tomorrow off. I'm actually going to do something a little different this week. I'm going to give you the lineup for the whole week right now. So Tommy Jones has been able to drag himself away from the golf course for the day on Monday for us.
It's closed. So
there you go.
That's the only reason.
On Wednesday, we have the dynamic duo that is Kyle and Jesper. Kyle Troop and Jesper Svensson. Then on Friday, we have another PBA mock draft because it seems like the world loves those. And then Sunday is a surprise. But it's Mother's Day, so that's a hint. So, do you have anything else to add, Chris?
No, I really don't. It's been a great hour. Thanks for Jason, our special guest, Wild Bill O'Neill, the real deal, and it was a good one.
Yes, sir. We'll hopefully continue the good shows with Tommy Jones coming up.
Yeah, I can't wait. So we do have a new website coming up, beefandbarnzy.com, and we'll have T-shirts available for sale on there, as well as links soon to our personal jersey sponsors. And in between now and then, I guess stay safe, stay healthy. Soon we'll be in the bowling centers. God bless.
Bye-bye.